Hello, my name is Tom Stiles, and this is Tom's Radio Room Show number 407. Yep, 407. And what you're looking at is a book I got a couple weeks ago. Was able to get this off of Amazon used, and it looks brand new, but I got it used for $1. And what it is, it's the two-way radio and scanners for dummies. Now, when these dummy books came out originally, I really didn't like them. I looked at a couple of them. I didn't like them. They were really dumbed down. But over the years, they've gotten a lot better, and somebody informed me that these are written by people in the particular field that the subject is on. And this one is written by H. Ward Silver. And according to the intro here, he's been an electrical engineer for 20 years, and he's been into broadcasting, and he's written a number of different things. He's an amateur radio operator with an extra class, which is the highest you can get licensed. And so he has the credentials anyway. That doesn't necessarily mean he can write, but he's got the credentials. And so I got this book for two reasons: for people who are thinking about getting into amateur radio and have really no knowledge, and so it kind of throws all the information together in this book as opposed to searching the internet, and for people who are interested in scanner radios, and lastly for people who are interested in shortwave radios. So it covers that whole realm of possibilities. So as you can see, I went through the book and I marked things that are of particular interest. And the good thing about this book is it really provides information from the person who is just getting into this hobby to the person that has been in the hobby for a while and maybe hasn't tried some things, some areas of the hobby, and will be new to them. Okay, so I'm going to go through the book kind of quickly. I'm not going to dwell on stuff too much because you really need to go purchase this book if you like what you see. So here we go. So the first section is it's actually chapter 2. Chapter 1 is just kind of an introduction of radios in general and the hobbies of shortwave listing, amateur radio, and scanner listing. Kind of just an intro, no big deal. And then chapter 2 is detailed information about getting into this hobby and what to do to get into it. For instance, this chapter talks about the effects of weather, the sun, and seasons on amateur radio, scanner radio, etc. And it talks about how the seasons affect your reception. You know, bring this up a little closer to the camera so you can see what I'm talking about. And it also talks about the weather, specifically the ionosphere and how that affects reception. So it gives you a lot of general information about how your receiving conditions can change based on those particular subjects. Now, we're going to skip up to chapter 6, which is communicating in emergencies and what to listen to when there's an emergency, such as hurricane or tornado or whatever, and what kind of radios to have, and what kind of scanners to get in general. It doesn't get into specifics here, but it gets in general about the equipment you need for communication in emergencies. It also talks about transceivers, you know, how you can communicate with other people when your cell phones don't work and when your landline is down also. You know, how can you communicate with others and what kind of equipment you need. Okay, in section 8, it has it's talking about ship at sea marine radio. and what you can monitor on your scanner radios. And in this here is a table of each of the channels, marine channels, the frequency, and what they're used for. So for instance, let me see if I can find it. Channel 16 in the marine band, which is 5.6800 megahertz, is for the international distress, safety, and calling information on people in trouble. So I listen to that quite often because I live near the west coast of Florida. So we have a lot of marine traffic in this area for people that are going boating and commercial boats and stuff like that, coming in and out of where I live specifically is Tampa Bay. Okay, so this gives you a nice table of those frequencies. Now again, you could find this information on the internet, but it's all collected into this one book. Saves you a lot of time. It's great to just sit down and read this book, mark it up, get you a yellow marker or use little markers like I've got so you can find things again, and just go through the book. And then it talks about marine radios themselves and how they work. Then the next interesting thing I found in here is marine communications on the HF bands at 4 megahertz, 6 megahertz, 8 megahertz, and so on up, and what the frequencies are in those bands. Like I say, these are the HF bands where you get marine communications for things that are more long distance. So that's got that nice little table there for you. And moving right along, here we have, this is chapter 9, which is systems band radio and amateur radio. And here they are showing you finding shortwave hams. Somebody asked me the question a couple of weeks ago of, I want to start listening to the hams on shortwave, and I've got a radio now that's capable of that, which means he's got a radio that has single sideband capability, and he wanted to know what the frequencies were. And here they are, the specific frequencies that the amateurs are licensed to operate on. And of course, like I said, you could find this on the internet, but here it is, all in this one book. So that's how you would find the frequencies to tune into on your shortwave radio with single sideband. Some of them do operate on AM, but mostly on single sideband, and where they can be found, what frequency. That's a nice little table. Okay, let's go up here and see what we have here. Now this is a general table about all the frequencies across the HF band, the upper HF bands, and up to the VHF bands, and what kind of services that you can listen in on in those bands. And for instance, it has the top of the HF band, 25 to 26.96 megahertz, which is in some cases used for business and shortwave broadcast. And then here's the 10-meter amateur radio band listed. Here's the 6-meter amateur radio band. Here's a business band, which is 7.0 to 7.6. Now some of these bands are no longer used, and it shows where now they're used, which is in this case 420 megahertz to 450 megahertz. And that's, oh, I correct myself. What this is the table goes down this way, and then it goes down this way, and it covers from 25 megahertz to 1.3 gigahertz. So I apologize for that mistake. So it's a double table, really. And then it's got the military bands. This is where you can listen to VHF military communications. Now, military communications for long distance are on HF. So that's a nice little table. So what do we got next? A lot of good pictures here that illustrates things. Now here is a section, again, if you're just getting started, of learning how to use your scanner. How to, you get a scanner in the mail, and he's like, "Ew, I don't know what I got to do with this thing. How does it work?" Well, it tells you in general how to use your scanner from day one. So that's a nice little table. It even has an illustration of this. Is matter of fact, this is. It looks like it's a BC 246 unit in, which is also the Radio Shack Pro 83, which I've done a review on. Nice little simple scanner, and I think it's sold for like $39. Very expensive little scanner, and it covered up to 512 megahertz, maybe even higher. I don't remember. Maybe it even covered up to 900 megahertz. Okay, here is another table or section, and it talks about, here it introduces something related to scanner listening, which is listening to what's called trunking systems. And it tells you what a trunking system is and how to set up your scanner to listen to a trunking system. And what's happened is recently, and I say recently, maybe the past 10 years, the emergency police and EMS have gone to what's called a trunking system, and it's a fairly complicated system, but it's designed so that more traffic can be put in a narrower band by, I call it multiplexing. Maybe it's not really multiplexing, but there are now scanners that will track this, and you have to know how to set those scanners up. So this gives you an intro to that. So that's kind of interesting. Okay. Now here is a section about where do you find the frequencies to listen to, and it gives you a number of places on the internet to find frequencies to listen to. The one I use most often is radioreference.com, and I think I've done a couple reviews on that website, and it provides a lot of information about in your area what frequencies are used, and you can program into your scanner to listen to traffic. Okay, moving right along, and here it just mentions that you can, depending on your scanner, you can program your scanner with a computer that makes it much easier, and you can get the information to program your scanner from this radio reference database. And it tells you how to do that. And here's an example of what the software that you would purchase, or you can get it some free, that will program your scanner depending on what scanner you have. Okay, let's see. Then this is another section talking about scanning trunked systems and how it works and how trunking systems work. Make it a little more understandable. See how we're doing here. Now here's chapter 7. Looks like a 12. Chapter 12 is about listening to aviation transmissions, listening to local airlines, commercial airlines, listen to military communications via plane to plane and plane to tower. And it tells you where to look, what to listen to, and when to listen. And then what we have here is a table for finding military facilities, and it tells you the frequencies, and it's broken down into type, such as medevac, fire, ambulance, security, and so on. Another piece of information that makes learning what to listen to much easier. Here's a table again about shortwave broadcasts. This is international broadcasts. It lists the various international meter bands and what frequencies those bands are. Probably can't even see that, but believe me, it's there. Okay, we're just about done here. Like I say, this is just some excerpts. This book is just packed with information. Nothing really new there. I'll skip that one. And then, whoops, got so many stickers here. This section here is listening to shortwave to receive data and miscellaneous signals. And for instance, that would include fax. And in fax, and the fax are transmitted on HF, is weather fax, weather pictures, which can be decoded with some free software on your computer, and you can get some up-to-date pictures of weather conditions that you normally would have to wait till 6 o'clock news to get that information, and they might not even give you the details that you could get directly from these transmissions. Now, chapter 15 is talks about the equipment you need and what vendors you might be able to get that equipment from. For instance, finding shortwave equipment. They list Universal Radio. They're still in business. Grove Enterprise, unfortunately, they're out of business. Ham Radio Outlet, I think they're still in business. Amateur Electronic Supply, they're still in business. And Radio Shack as a last resort. So, and it gives you the website address and everything. Then here's a pretty good section that if you're into or if want to get into receiving these report cards that are reports known as QSL cards, where you listen to an international station and you write down some information about the broadcast and you mail that station a report, and they will send you back a little card, usually with some pictures on it or something, and say, okay, we got your report and thank you very much, and document that you received, that they received your report. And people have made a hobby of just doing this. It used to be really popular 10, 20 years ago. It's still slightly popular. Not as many stations do this, but there's still something to do. And you get these nice little cards that represent that station. So it tells you how to do that. And what do you need to put in a report so that the station will get the information they need and will send you a card back. Because if you just say, you know, I heard your broadcast on this frequency, it's not enough information. You got to give them information about what the program was, some details about the program, the frequencies that you heard it on, how strong the signal was, etc., etc. And this chapter tells you how to do that. That's a lot of fun. I used to do that 25, 30 years ago, and you get these in the mail from all over the world, and it was pretty exciting. Some people, like I say, still do that. Now this section is getting technical with your radio. You know, technical details about your radio. And this is kind of top level details. For instance, here's a good illustration. This is a picture of different kinds of adapters so that you can adapt whatever the connector is on your radio to whatever the connector is on the coax bringing your antenna signal in. And a couple of people have asked me some questions about this stuff, And here's a pictorial of these different kinds of adapters. Here's some audio ones, audio adapters. Okay, we're getting near the end. We're up to chapter 18 out of, I think, about 20 chapters. And here it talks about, again, some more technical information about the equipment. And here's a table of coax cable, and it lists the different types of coax cable, the diameter of those cables, how much loss of the signal you have of the cable, and this will give you an idea of what kind of cables you want to get. And of course, it also gives you kind of a relative cost of the cable to other cables here, because sometimes you can get really good low loss, so your signal doesn't get attenuated before it gets to the radio, but you might have to pay considerable more money to get that cable. Okay. There's a section on batteries and types of batteries that are used. And here's a table of batteries, the size of the battery, the chemistry involved, whether it's alkaline or nickel metal hydride, the voltage typically out of it, and the average energy that type of battery provides. So we're up to page 290. So it's a pretty thick book. And we're up to chapter 19 now. And I think that's about all that I highlighted. It's more, there's 25 chapters. There's 25 chapters in this book. Let me see. This book originally retailed for $21.99. I got it, like I say, I got it used off of Amazon. That's a great place to get used books is Amazon. Typically, you can get used books in condition like this one. They claim it's used, but I don't see any marks on it or anything. This is the sticker that the seller put on. Why, I don't know. For under $4. So this is a great place to look. I'm pretty sure I have this in my Amazon store. And of course, how that works is I've just got a storefront. You pick something, and it's only about these subjects, in radios and antennas and stuff like that. And you pick something out of the store, it takes you to the real Amazon, the big Amazon, and then you deal with them. And there's no extra charge by using my store, and I get a small commission which I use to purchase things like this book and radios for review. So anyway, I think this is a very good book for people starting out in either amateur radio, shortwave listening, or scanner radios. And like I say, it's two-way radios and scanners for dummies. And forget the dummies. It's actually for people that aren't dummies. I don't know if I said that right. People that aren't dummies. Well, anyway, my point is, it's got information even if you've been in a hobby for a while. So that's the show for today. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you enjoyed the show, please give me a thumbs up, and that tells me that I'm providing shows of value to you, my subscribers and viewers. That's it. Bye-bye.